Welcome to Belfast, Wales. Today's guest is Martina Crudden. Martina is a mother of six children. She's also a holistic therapist, a spiritual healer, and a Reiki master, an NLP practitioner. And she runs her business, Martina Crudden Health and Wellness. So, Martina, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Jonathan, for asking me. Thank you. Pleasure.
Good to have you on. I suppose I've heard a bit of your story, and I know maybe a lot of people who are watching this haven't. So I'm just gonna, I think I'll just let you. I think the only thing there is to say is just let you start, really, from the
Okay. Yeah, we could be here a while then. So I suppose how I've got to where I am now has been a bit of a journey, as you know, life is for a lot of people. Um, I don't believe that I am any different to anybody else, really. I think life can throw us some difficult challenges, and again, what I've learned is how to cope with it, and that's basically where I am now. Is that I've been through a pretty rough time, I suppose, and where to begin really is I grew up in a little town in County Monaghan, and at the life was good. I have a good family, good network, great friends around me. But what happened was well, as you said, I was a mother of six, and I was pregnant pretty early. I had a child when I was 16, and things were pretty different. Back then, it's Daniel is 27, so it's things it wasn't really as accepted as it is now, and that was pretty tough. I was still at school, and it wasn't long before, when people like me were actually taken away to homes, and not that long, previous to that, because I know people that had happened to. So it was pretty scary being pregnant at that age, and the influence of the church and that as well, because my grandmother was a healer as well, and there was a huge influence of, I suppose, the shame and the guilt around that, and to try and tell your family as well. So I tried to hide it, but I was very, very sick, so I didn't hide it very well, because I ended up having to be in hospital quite a bit, and in and out. And because I was still at school, I remember, being sick into my school bag to try and disguise it, when I was doing exams and things like that. So it was pretty difficult. The pregnancy was pretty difficult as well. And I had my son Daniel when I was 16, as I said. And, I never had any doubt that he was sent to me for a reason. I really believed that there was nothing was going to stop me from having this child, regardless of what anybody said. He was sent to me for a reason. So yeah, I did. I went back to school after Daniel was born, and just 4 weeks after, and went to college. I was so determined of how I wanted life to be for him, and I suppose a part of me wanted to prove everybody else, wrong as well, that I could be a great mother, no matter what anybody else thought. So I did have Daniel. I met my husband then about a year later, um, and life was good, and then that all started to change really in 1997. My I worked as a travel agent. I was traveling the world. I really did love my work, loved life, and I was that changed when my cousin was killed in a car accident, and we were very, very close. We were like brother and sister, really. So between Jeffrey and lots of other friends that I should have been with at the time, um, they were also killed in road accidents as well. And I was with some of the people that actually their lives had been taken, and I felt so guilty about surviving. And it really did. get to me. I couldn't understand why I was left and they weren't, and it was very, very difficult. To have to say, I felt enormous amount of guilt around it. Now, I didn't realize it really at the time, but looking back on it now and doing the healing, for myself, I can see how disruptive maybe that had become in my life, and maybe trying to block it out, the pain, and not deal with it, and turning to drink. It was a great thing in the Irish culture as well, as just go out and party and block it out and don't let it in on you. And I suppose I did do a bit of that as well. So there's been lots of different times in my life where I can see now how it had shaped me to my beliefs, and maybe the culture as well of not dealing with anything and sweeping it all under the carpet and just thinking it's going to go away. It didn't really go away, to be honest. I felt it was festering. I know it was now, but at the time you do what you can just to survive it, I suppose. And then we got married, and I also have had I have 4 beautiful girls. What I suppose it's the journey has been a challenging one, but the loss of Jeffrey was a massive impact on my life, I believe. He died on the 1st of March in 1997, and I felt like I lost a part of me when he died. But I had the 1st of March was always a massive. There always seemed to be something happen on the 1st of March.
Yeah.
On the calendar. It's very strange, very difficult to try and explain it, but it was a day that you dreaded, really. And that fear and that energy and all surrounding that date was huge. So I had lost other family members, and it always seemed to be around that time, or when you're away, or it's a weird one, but
like a sense of foreboding.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I suppose I would have done a lot of work around road safety. My own son then had died. I suppose I should go back a bit to 2009. I was expecting. I had 2 miscarriages pretty late on, so I'd lost those 2 babies and had to be hospitalized and everything for that within a space of 6 months of one another. And then in 2009, I was expecting a little girl, and they were pretty sure that there was something wrong, that they thought she would need a heart operation. So pretty early on, because I had lost babies previous, they were keeping a tight eye on me, and I'd been sent to specialists in Dublin to keep a check and make sure that everything was okay. And they were quite concerned, as I said, pretty early on, but at the 20-week scan, then they decided that they thought she would need a heart operation. So I would have been up every month or so with different specialists between different hospitals. And it was like a roller coaster, because you were trying to keep this baby alive. And at the same time, you get one good news one month, and then the following month it would be something else. And so you were just constantly doing your best, really, to keep this baby alive and to keep me well as well, and I also had my other children to look after, so it was quite a difficult pregnancy. And for 6 weeks before I gave birth, I would have been admitted to the hospital, because they thought we'd get the baby to a certain weight, and when she would be born, then we would have her transferred to have the heart operation. So I lay for 6 weeks in hospital, and I was in a ward with other women that their babies were pretty sick, and we were all there together going through this same waiting game, I suppose is one word you could. And what happened was, all the women in the ward all had their babies, and then all their babies had died, and so that was a massive, very, very difficult to deal with, because you were the next in line, and you'd built a friendship with these women for that time, because I was in Dublin. It's quite a distance away. I didn't get to see my family. I didn't get to see my kids. And when you're not well, that can, it can really get in on you, in your head. Plus I wasn't physically sick, so it was like a prison. That's what I felt like. I felt like I was in prison, and I couldn't leave, couldn't see anybody. And what happened, as I said, the other girls had all lost their babies, had died, and I had been let home that weekend, because they could see that it was having a huge effect on me, and plus they knew I was going to be giving birth in the next week, and that I was going to be in Crumlin or wherever for a long time with the baby. So they let me home that weekend. As I say, I felt like I was in prison, that they're saying going to let you home for a day or two, and that was even a fight to get that. I would have missed my other girls starting school. One of my daughters, I missed all that. So there was huge. Daniel also had done his junior cert, and I'd missed him getting results. So there was a lot of big events, for a family that you, as a mother, that you want to be there for, and you're not.
Yeah.
And even though you knew it was the best thing, it still has a massive effect on you, as a mother. You want to be there for all your children, but I was trying to keep this little baby, alive. So I knew I had to be where I was. And so what happened was I went back in, on the Monday, and I knew that they were going to be starting me to have deliver the baby, because they get her to a certain weight that they would be fit to transfer. And she was to be the youngest, baby, the smallest baby that they would ever perform this operation on. So it was a huge thing for them too, and they wanted everything to be right. So so I gave birth to wee girl Jamie Lee on the 24th of September 2009, and when she was born, like, she was double the weight than what they actually thought. So it was like, oh my God, this is just amazing. She was fighting. She was just totally not what they were expecting. That it was like this little warrior had just arrived into the world, and yeah, it was like, oh my God, all our prayers are being answered. So she was transferred. Then we had her baptized straight away in the hospital, and then she was transferred to Crumlin. And so I had to shower and wash, and I was pleading with them not to section me, because I knew if I was sectioned, I wouldn't be able to be transferred. So I was doing everything I could to actually deliver this baby normally, which I did, thankfully. And when they transferred her then to Crumlin, we followed them over, because I wasn't allowed to travel with her. And when we got to Crumlin, they told us that they met us, and they said, "You're Jamie Lee's parents?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "We've just done the scan of her heart. Her heart is actually okay." And we thought, oh my God, this is amazing. Our prayers have been answered. And we were just blown away. I was taken to see her, and everything seemed to be going great. So because I was still under the care of the Rotunda Hospital, I had to leave that night because I was still their patient. So I was like, okay, we'll be back. She said, you'd come back the next morning. So came back over the next morning, and they said they needed to talk to us, that the doctor had wanted to talk to us in the family room or whatever. And they said that the little nurse had noticed that her nappies hadn't been wet, so they were a bit concerned about that. So they done brain scans and different things, and things seemed to be coming back clear. And then they discovered that her kidneys hadn't developed. So we had been told all along her kidneys were perfect, and everything was perfect. Now in hindsight, looking back, I can see where different things have actually changed. And I was given I don't know if we can say this, but the swine flu injection, and the link started to come together as to how things developed from that, only over the past few years, really. But yeah, what happened was her kidneys hadn't developed, and her body was being poisoned basically. So she had lived for the few days, and I found myself in the chapel of Crumlin Hospital on the morning. It was the morning that I'd been a mess, couldn't take anything in the days before. But that morning it was like this sense of strength and came over me. And I was in the chapel, and I just said, I remember saying, please God, if she's going to suffer, please just take her. Do not let her suffer, because I can't watch this. Because it was awful, to see your child. You couldn't hold her, you couldn't do anything for her. And I was just pleading with, I remember there was a statue, and I was like talking away to this statue, and I was like, please, please do not put this child through any more suffering. If I have to suffer, so be it. Please don't let her suffer any longer. And when I was heading up the stairs of the hospital, I met the nurse coming down the stairs and coming to get me, and I said, she's going, isn't she? And she said, yeah. And I was like, so we went up into the unit, and she was in the intensive care unit, and I said, please just take all the machines and the wires and everything off her and just give her to me. So I held her in my arms, and they had said, that's it, she's gone, she'd passed away in my arms. And so I handed her over to my husband, and the next thing she just opened her eyes, and like she was completely sedated, so she shouldn't have been able to actually open her eyes. So she opened her eyes and looked up into his face, and looked the two of us, and it was the first time really we'd seen her eyes kind of open. And then my husband held her for another 20 minutes or so, and then she passed away. So it was very, very difficult. Some of the family had come up to see us, and they had gathered with us, to be there. So it was, even though she was only here for a few short days, she had a huge impact on our lives. So that was 2009, and I guess I never thought I would ever feel joy or happiness again. I felt like my heart had just been tore out of my chest, and you took home and you to have a wee funeral for this wee baby. I remember bringing her home. I said, visit in the hospital. I said, I'm taking her home. And they said, what about postmortem? I said, absolutely no way are you getting her. I'm taking her. I said, home right now. And they were like, but you can't. And I was like, well, I am. And I wrapped her up in blankets, and they were said, please don't go yet. But I didn't realize what I was doing. I was taking this dead baby from Dublin to Monaghan, and they were like, if you're stopped by the guards, they're going to ask questions. So I had to have a letter say that what had happened, and so I could bring, Jamie Lee home. And when I came home, like the house was full, and the community, the family, they were great. But it was like, oh, I'm bringing my baby home, and put her in her Moses basket, and we had a wake for her, and then I took her to bed that night, and slept with her. People came to sit up, and I said, you can go home, because I'm taking her to bed, so this is the only night that I have with her before she's buried. And so that's what I did. I took her to bed and held her and cradled her for the night. And looking back, I don't even know if I was in my right mind, but I'm so glad that I did do what I did, because it was the only chance that I got. And there's so many parents don't even get that chance to even have that, with everything that's coming out, even at the moment, it's, about the mothers and babies. It's just absolutely heartbreaking to think that they even never got that chance to even maybe hold their babies or see them, and not knowing what's happening to them. And it's complete torture, mental torture it must be for them. So it's just, I'm so privileged that and I feel so, so grateful to have had that time to spend with her, even though it was not for long, but it was still the chance that every mother should have with their child.
Do you
So
think
the
that?
next,
Sorry,
yeah.
do you think that being able to do that in that way, that helped in the healing process later on?
Yes, yeah, because I've been through so many other different situations, where the babies had died, and, with one we didn't get to take home, one we did take home, and we got to bury with my grandmother. That was, very close to me. And, even the priest acknowledged the baby then, whereas before, years ago, that wasn't even done. It was just, oh, you've had a miscarriage, get on with it. That's it. Where there was nothing, you were sent home with nothing. So I've experienced all of that. If you get me, I've had all the experiences. So that's why I can resonate with so many people, because I've been through so much of it at a very young age. So, I could understand. And so, yeah, it did help me. I feel now, and I'm so glad that I didn't just go with what everybody else in the house wanted, or, what everybody else was saying to do, that I was, had that, I was headstrong, and I knew exactly what I wanted, and I did it. So, the next morning it was like, okay, she's been buried today. And then the following morning it was, the kids were back at school. Oh, we have to go to school. And it's like, that was it. It was like, that's it. I want to grieve, and I have to get my children back to school. So it was, in one way you just wanted to lie in bed and pull the covers over your head and never come out again. But on the other hand, I had, my other kids that I needed to look after, and they needed me, and they hadn't had me for quite a long time. So it was, to them, it was, oh, mommy's back. Now it's time to move on. So, and we did, that kind of, I did get on with things.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I actually had grieved, for her. I don't believe that I had actually. I kind of got on with it. Life moves on. People think, oh, she was here, she's gone. Now that's it. Now, it's time to get on with life. And that's kind of what I did really do until, that was, I found myself pregnant again. And I was like, because I'd said never again was I ever having another child. And I couldn't understand how I even was expecting. I know that might sound really hard to believe, but I couldn't understand how I was pregnant, and the fear with it, of how am I going to survive this, or what am I going to do? It was really, really difficult. So that was, but I knew that this child had also been sent to me for a reason. And what happened was, then on the 1st of March 2011, my eldest son, Daniel, my only son, should I say, um, he's 17 at this stage, and he'd been driving, and he was heading into school. I had slept in that morning, and I heard the door go, and the next thing, he was gone. And what happened that morning, I got a phone call to say, there'd been an accident on the road, and it was my mother had heard it. She was in the doctors, and don't know Daniel's at school, because I've texted him and I've got no reply, and he's obviously in class and he's not going to be able to answer his phone. But what happened, it was Daniel that was in that accident. It was on the 1st of March, the anniversary of Jeffrey's death as well. And I had got that, when I hung up the phone from my mother, I just got this feeling. I just got this feeling in my stomach, and it was like, I need to get in the road. I didn't know it was Daniel. So I lifted Alicia, who was the youngest child at the time. The other girls had sent them on to school, and I lifted Alicia and went to lift my husband. He had went to work early that morning, and I just rang him, or went to get him, and I said, we need to go in the road. There's been an accident, and I think it's Daniel. And I just had this feeling that it was him. And when I was heading in the road, then I met the guards coming to get me, and they took Seamus out of the car because they didn't want me to hear. And they said, he's pretty bad. He's still in the car. This was like maybe an hour and a half later, from I had left home. So it was only like a couple of miles from our house. So by the time we got there, then they just got him into the ambulance, and said that I couldn't go with him. So we followed him over to Cavan Hospital. And when I arrived, the ambulance doors were open, and I could see where they'd cut his clothes and his shoes and everything. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to go crazy here when he sees, because he was so into his fashion and his style. I said, Jesus, he's going to go mad, not ever thinking how bad he was going to be, And when I say bad, he wasn't physically, but when we got in, they said, I think you should call the family. I don't think he's going to make it. And I was like, oh my God, you're not serious. Like, this couldn't be happening again. And when they brought me in to see him, I could see the blood coming from his ears, and that was, I knew that wasn't a good sign. Like, it's not a good sign. So we called for family and that, because they said, I knew when the doctor came in to speak to me, I'd seen that look before. I knew in his eyes what he was going to say before he even opened his mouth. I could sense it. I just knew in my heart what was coming. And he said, he wouldn't make it through the night, that it was severe head injury. It was exactly the same as Jeffrey. He had a punctured lung and head injury, and it was like this history was just repeating itself.
Yeah.
Same injury, same side. It was just like this. You couldn't make this up. Like, so he didn't actually die that night. He kept showing signs that he was maybe recovering, but I knew in my heart that day that he was gone. He lived for 5 days, and everybody came to the hospital. They even opened up a ward. They looked after us. They were unbelievable. They fed us. And I mean us, like there must have been about 30 or 40 people there at a time for the 5 days. Coming from America, coming from England, huge. She just had such a huge amount of friends and school, and it was, everybody got to come. So we did keep vigil by his bedside for those 5 days, and we were asked if we would donate his organs, and we did, because we had already had the experience of Jamie Lee with her kidneys, and we had already talked about it as a family. So that was really the biggest decision to be made, even though we knew that we would do it. But actually sitting down to sign them forms and hand your child over is one of the hardest decisions you're ever going to have to make, I feel, from being through everything that I've been through. But to actually sit down and sign them forms, even though in your head, you carry your card, you do all that, and for a family to be able to do that is a huge decision, for anyone to make. So I always tell people, please speak about this with your family, say what you want, because if it was left to me, I may not have done it.
Yeah.
And not gone through what we've gone through. And I know how difficult it was being on both sides of it. So I think it's really important to have that conversation with family. Like, I know now that 5 other people's lives have been saved through Daniel's organs. And it was a very difficult thing to even talk about. For years, I couldn't even think about it. But then when I was receiving letters from those people to say, and little gifts and that, to thank me, and to realise the difference that he had made in their lives, and seeing other children that I know that have had organ donations as well, and to see what it does mean to people and to life. It's the greatest gift that you're ever going to be able to give to anybody, is to save someone else's life. So, but that didn't make it easy, I have to say. For years, it didn't. I can just about talk about it now, and we're quite a bit down the line. So it is huge. It's huge for people. So Daniel he died on the 5th of March, which was actually the anniversary of my grandmother as well, which was kind of all strange when it comes to dates and numbers and things, because he died he lived for 5 days. He saved 5 people's lives. He was pronounced dead at 5 o'clock. 5 days after. It was like the 555s. I didn't actually understand all that at the time, but it was like, when you get into angel numbers and things like that, it started to all come together. So he passed away, and it was like my life was just kind of, my heart was shattered. But I was pregnant, you see, at the time, so I was 6 months pregnant.
How did that, like, I take it you were just on autopilot from that moment.
Yeah.
How did that, like, I can't even form words, but how did that, how did it go after with the pregnancy? Was it just, were you just, well, I think you're probably best explain how did it go after that then with the pregnancy?
they were quite concerned, for me and for the baby. So, even when Daniel was in hospital, the hospital were so good to me. They were taking me and scanning me and checking me, to make sure that I was okay. Also, when Daniel died, they would have come out to the house to me. They were waiting for me to have this massive crash, breakdown that didn't actually happen. It's very hard to describe. I just kept going, and I believe that this baby had been sent for a reason, was to keep me. I don't actually know if I would have survived it, to be honest with you, if I hadn't been pregnant, which is kind of strange. It was difficult, but I also believe that she was sent for me, that I would have something to focus on, and that I had to keep going, and that's what I kept going. I would have got the counsellors in for the kids, they would have come to the house. They were so good to us, because they were, trying everything that they could to be of support to the family, because we'd been through, I suppose, so much in the previous year and a half, really. It was only 18 months really from Jamie Lee had died. So I threw myself into looking after everybody else and making sure, as long as the kids were okay, and that I would be okay. Because to watch them, it was awful. It was really, really difficult. And you felt you had to be strong for them, so you didn't actually. You just coped. I can't. You got a strength from somewhere. So I threw myself into fundraising, and we went ahead with Daniel's 18th birthday party, and we donated the money to the intensive care unit in Cavan to say a thank you for everything that they'd done for us. I then got involved with road safety. Myself and the guards and a few other, the Monaghan Rotary Club, and Dr. Ashraf Butt, which would have been Daniel's doctor. We all worked together to provide a programme for transition year students, which is like fourth class before fourth year, for everybody that before they're out on the road, that they're going through this programme, which is quite gruesome, to be honest, at times, and it's very hard hitting, but it's also given them that perspective of the effects of maybe thinking, everything there is to driving, maybe speed, being distracted, and it's not that all, I do have this thing where, when you hear a young person's in an accident, they get the blame. And I don't believe that that's true. I think they're the scapegoats sometimes as well, that it's not always, oh, it's the young one, oh, they must have been speeding. That is not true. I don't believe that. Even the accident that Daniel was in, there was a lot of things that went on around that as well. There was, the guy that actually was in the accident actually sued me personally a year later. And we went through a huge, how I actually survived, I have no idea, or how I got the strength to keep going was, he didn't even go through his company insurance or anything. He wasn't hurt. And he sent me a solicitor's letter on the first year of Daniel's anniversary, on the week of his first anniversary. So I've had to do a lot of work even around forgiveness and how people think or what's going on with them. He used to meet me and act as if nothing happened, ignore me in the inquest and the courts and stuff like that. And I was like, what in thunder of God is going on? Like, what is... I couldn't get my head around it, I was fighting insurance companies. They tried to say that he wasn't actually insured in the car as well, which I had to fight over that. It was like, you couldn't make it up. There was just so much shit was being fired at you from all directions, and knowing that, yes, he was insured, yes, he was in the right, and yet everything went against us. The only thing is, it was never going to bring him back, and I knew that. And I wasn't willing to put my house on the line and my family's health or my health, for somebody that's trying to take you. I don't even know if they realise they're taking you down. I think it's just all about money, and which is disgusting. I can understand if somebody is hurt and injured, but not when it's, So there was a lot around that as well. So I was fighting that as well. So I had no other choice other than to keep going. And I was doing those road safety events for Cavan and Monaghan, and speaking to 300 or 400 students at a time. Parents would ring and say, oh my God, you've had a huge impact on my child. They've really seen, the effects that it can have and what it's going to bring if they don't cop themselves on, or if they don't, are not cautious on the road. And the numbers dramatically changed around road accidents in Cavan and Monaghan over those years. Even Dr. Butt, that would have is the A&E consultant, that would have been Daniel's doctor as well, couldn't believe that, how the accidents had just completely dropped. But we'd done a lot of work on it,
Yeah, that's
Um,
fantastic that number came down. That's amazing. Like,
yeah, because there was a lot of young people who were even messing on the road, and doing donuts out on a straight and stuff. That all stopped. We continued with Daniel's, even we celebrated his 21st birthday, and we donated that money to that program as well. There was over 10,000 raised for that, just for his birthday, kind of birthday party. And we incorporated like a road, a car show. So but I also spoke about, okay, yous are out, yous love your cars, yous have. So we got the right people in and spoke at the same time, So it was brilliant. Great way to actually get to, I suppose, the people that you were trying to have an impact on. Because I believe it's of all our responsibilities to be more careful and cautious. It's not just the young people. I don't know how there's not more accidents, to be honest, when you see the antics of people on the roads and on their phones and whatever. But again, that's a whole other subject. But it's something that I was very passionate about. Was to
is
try
that
and
program still running? Sorry.
yes, it is.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
The only thing is now this year with COVID, it hasn't
Yeah.
went ahead this year, but it is still running. But what happened was at one of the events, I took a breakdown. That's when I started to. It was a few years into it, and it's not like I hadn't done it before. It was just like it was a song. Coldplay's "Fix You" was playing, and they were showing a video of a crash, and they were playing that song, and it was one of my favorite songs anyway. But the sound, it was the screeching of the tires. It was I just put myself into the scene. I imagined what it must have been like for Daniel, the screeching of the tires, the braking, and then the impact. And it was the sounds, actually, just because I couldn't see anything because it was behind the screen.
Yeah.
And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It came out of absolutely, not out of nowhere, but it was just that I'd been through so much of it, and it just built up that my body just went bang, and I ended up being very, very sick. So I went home that evening, and my husband, said, "This is it. You can't keep going like this because there's so much. It's taken so much out of you." And it was, to talk about it, but at the same time, I knew if I could save one person's life, that it was going to be, Daniel's life wasn't in vain, and that's what I was so determined to do, was to make an impact, to help other people. And so I started getting sicker and sicker, and my body just started to shut down. My organs started to fail. I went in for surgery on my womb, and a week later, then I had a massive hemorrhage, and I was rushed into. My husband found me in the bathroom and got me to A&E, and I was just bleeding out. And they couldn't find anything. It was just what they couldn't stop it. They didn't know where it was coming from. And I had an out of body experience. Then I seen myself. I left my body, so was dying. I knew I was dying, and I said, I am dying. And the next thing, I was gone. And I met my children, and I was told I had to come back, that I had more work to do, that it wasn't my time to leave. Yeah, and it was like I come back, but it was like I still had to recover. I didn't tell anybody about this for a long time, actually. It was a couple of years before I even spoke about it. I was trying to get my head around it myself. If I said this, were people going to think that I was losing it and lock me up, or think I'm mad? And even the hospital knew that they had made massive failings as well, that they had come and said, we know you have a case here if you want to pursue it. And I said, no, I don't want to pursue it, because I knew that this had to happen for me to actually see and know that, I had this work that I'm doing now. So it was very, very strange.
Yeah.
And
See the if I can ask about the that experience itself, because I know I apologize, I can't remember the name of the doctor, but um, there was a doctor I think in America, and he had patients who had reported this, and they were startled, they were confused, like, look, this happened to me during surgery, or what happened? And so the doctor he put objects high up in the room where they would be treating people in a crisis like that. And basically, what he did was he would go, when you were looking down your body, what did you notice in the room? Because in some of these cases, people were able to recount what doctors were saying in the room, and the doctor knew, well, there's no possible way you could hear that, because when you were in that at that bad state or whatever, you were deeply sedated, maybe it was a routine operation or whatever, that went horribly wrong. So that's uh, what started that study. I do apologize, I can't remember the doctor's name.
Dr. Alexander, something, isn't it? I can't remember his. I have read his book as well. Yeah, yeah.
What
Um,
was how, when I was trying to form the questions here. When that happened, did you just become, was it just totally aware of what was happening to you, or were you kind of like a peace, or was it kind of like a weird, like kind of going, where am I, or what's happening?
I actually had two experiences. So, the first one was when I was in that room before they actually, I could see myself. I was looking down and it was just like everything was all white, but it was like I could see them working on me, and I could see Seamus sitting by my side and him panicking. I could see the doctors panic. They didn't know, you know, what to do. And the next, I could see where they were bringing me to theatre, I was gone before they even got me to theatre. I knew I was going, while I was lying in the bed, and then I was, seeing myself,
Yeah,
and they were working on me. So I seen them taking me to theatre. And then during that, I'd have no recollection of, well, while they were in theatre, other than that, they said that they had they it just stopped. The bleeding just miraculously stopped. There was nothing they had done. They didn't do anything. But that was when I actually come back into my body.
yeah,
So it was during the actual event. It was like I went through. It was like I was rising. It's very hard to explain it, but it
yeah,
was like I was rising through the clouds, and I was floating higher and higher, and the colors were so vivid. It was like I went through these massive gardens of flowers and colors that I can't even put into words.
yeah,
Um, the presence was like such peace and love that there was no fear. There was absolutely nothing scary about it whatsoever. And Daniel was like, I'm just taking you by the hand, I'm showing you, we're okay. Um and I didn't want to come back. I was like, I don't want to, because I could hear voice saying it's not her time. And it was like, and he was like having a conversation with them. Oh, I know, I'm just telling her, I'm just showing her, we're okay and she's going to be okay. And it was like, but she still has her work to do. And it was like, yeah, I know, because my son would have been, kind of really chatty and matter of fact, that yeah, I know. But I'm just showing her, look at her, everything's beautiful and we're fine and we're going to help her. And it was like, that's what I was being told. It was like that they were going to help me do the work that I have to do here on earth. And I was like, but I knew I was coming back in a strange sort of way. Um, but it was just such peace. It was like I got to the gates. This is how I seen it, was like I got to these gates, and um it wasn't my time to enter them. It was
yeah,
like all clouds and colours, and like this stairway. This is how I seen it. I know other people may have seen or experienced differently. And this just immense love and peace, and all fear that I had around death was gone.
yeah,
And still is. Um, Now, no, I'm not ready to go yet. I'm good to where I am now. I'm
yeah,
not ready to go, but I know that it's not the end, and also that that's what I also feel is helping people to understand here, that death is not something to be feared as we do. We think that this is it, and it's definitely not it. My son, I see him quite regularly. He communicates not just through me, but through other people. I received a gift in the post last week that was actually sent from him from somebody else, but it was actually on the anniversary of one of my babies that had died, and she didn't know this, but she said that he had communicated that and told her what to buy, and it was a pair of earrings with butterflies, and they arrived on the day. And she didn't know any of that, but she just knew that she had to do this for me, and it was supposed to be a surprise. So, but I also see him where he also enters for when I'm working with people to help with healing and stuff like that as well. So that's where that led me. Was when I came back, I didn't know how I was going to heal myself. I didn't know what was going on. I still couldn't walk. I was very, very sick. And for months that continued, I was so weak. But it gave me time to discover new things. I questioned everything about religion. I questioned everything about death. I questioned everything that we had been fed and that we believed to be true. While there is some good things, there's also not so good. That the fear of God has been put into us, for want of better words. About hell and all that. Like, it really is what we are here now. Your life can be heaven or hell. That's the way I see it. And we get a choice every day, and every day is a blessing and is a gift. But I didn't know how I was supposed to help other people, so I discovered then neuro-linguistic programming, and I got really fascinated about the mind and how it can help heal the body and stuff like that. So I got really interested in that, and I discovered that Richard Bandler was coming to London that October. Now, of course, I had no money, I had no work, everything had fallen away. My husband had spent his whole time looking after us as well, so we had nothing, but yet at the same time we had everything. We had everything we needed. And I've discovered that from my kids died, everything else changed. The need and the want that you think that you have to have all these things to make you happy is so untrue. And where you might have looked at it as struggling, we haven't really. We've never really wanted for everything, because everything has always been provided for us, even though we didn't, have work, or I didn't know how I was going to keep the roof over my head, never mind anything else, even with that law, that lawsuit and everything. I didn't know what was, but everything has worked out for us, I don't know how at times, and sometimes I still question how. Don't even start with the hows and whys, but just trust that you are being taken care of. So I went and retrained in London. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to get there physically. I was still an emotional mess. I was full of anxiety. I still had, 4 other beautiful children to look after. And I remember one day that one of the girls, they were coming in from school, and they seen me lying on the couch, and I couldn't even get up to make them a dinner, and I felt useless as a mother. I thought, oh my God, I have to find something. And that's when I discovered it. It was like everything started to come to me, that this is the pathway. I looked in their eyes and I thought, fuck this, there has to be something better than, I'd done all the counselling, I'd done all that hasn't helped. What is it? What's going to help me? And then I said, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but you need to get me there. And so what happened was, you've heard of people manifesting. Well, I manifested the money. Checks came into the post that I was not expecting, and it was like, holy shit. I didn't even believe what they were. I actually kept them thinking that they were hoaxes, and I kept them in a press for months, until I got somebody from the bank to come and check them, and they were like, no, that is legit, like that's a rebate or whatever, and that you were on a tracker mortgage. And I said, no, I wasn't. And they were like, well, you must have been. And I said, well, I never looked for it, and I know I wasn't. And they were like, well, you are, so it is, and here's the money that you've overpaid. And I was like, oh my God. So the money came through, and then I went to London and retrained. I went to Paul McKenna for hypnotherapy, Richard Bandler for NLP, and Then I discovered Joe Dispenza as well. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work.
No, no, I don't
Oh
think
my
so. No.
God, mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. All again through meditation, through
Yeah,
through the power of your mind, and how life is not just we are more powerful beings than we have actually led to believe. The power that you have inside you, even for your immune system. You have all the chemicals inside, because my body started to heal through
yeah,
doing all this work. I was on so much medication. They still thought that I had a tumor in the pituitary gland of the brain. They thought I had breast cancer. I've been through all of that. Even from that near-death experience, I still had to go through lots of different medical assessments that they couldn't understand what was going on, because my
yeah.
body had been so bad. As I said, I couldn't walk. Like, I was bleeding from the breast. I was constantly bleeding until that day that I had the hemorrhage. I haven't, not a drop of blood has left my body since, in over 5 years.
Right.
So it was like a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
Um, there was just so much that they couldn't explain, and I couldn't explain either. Other than I didn't even tell them what had happened to me, or they would think I was nuts. So I came off all the medication that I had been on, which was a lot. I was on 9 different medications a day, and I started going on vitamins and minerals. I changed the water system in the house. So what we're actually putting into our body is quite toxic as well, food wise and water wise. So I changed all that, and I'd say within 6 weeks my body was completely healed.
Yeah.
I couldn't even brush my hair. I couldn't even put a brush to my head. The pain was horrendous. I was diagnosed post-traumatic stress, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome. Like, you name it, from head to toe, I
Yeah.
have been through all of that. So yeah, I went, and everything started to come together. The pieces of the jigsaw just started to fit. But I believe it's the energy as well. What you put out there, you also, bring to you. And energy, we are energetic beings,
Yeah.
and my cells, like, even the body, if it was coming up to an anniversary, my body would start getting sick, of some of the children, without me even real or thinking about it. It was like the cells of the body were still, they know, they're
Yeah.
interpreting everything. So it's fascinating stuff, like, really, when you get into it. And Dr.
See,
Joe Dispenza's work was really mind blowing for me. But the results that even when I started working with people, I set up a meditation class, and started using some of his work and breath work. The power of the breath as well was just incredible. How you can, retrain your body through breath work, and through the power of your mind, is just unbelievable. And the healings, like, I've seen people that were paralyzed stand up after 4 days, like, that were in wheelchairs for years,
yeah.
and walking. Stage 4 cancer, they're told that, a couple of months to live, or completely, after years later, they're still with us and no traces of cancer. So it was like, my God, like, this is just unbelievable. And I'm seeing it with people even all the time. So it's incredible.
See, with going back, you talked about death. But definitely, I mean, in our society, we compared to hundreds, a couple hundred years ago, we've very much pushed death out to the peripheral. We don't talk about it, or if someone kind of uh, brings it up, they're labeled, that's quite dark, that's quite grim. Um, what Again, if someone might watch it go, Joff, sounds like a stupid question, but um, um, what's your obviously what's your feeling about death now? I know obviously um, you talked about when you nearly died. Do you see it more now as a kind of just a phase, or like a doorway almost? You're starting from what we see now, this life now, to like an afterlife. Is it? I'd be right in saying so?
Yeah, to me, it's like a rebirth. To me, you're not actually dying. Yes, this body is, but your body is not really matter anyway. If you're broken down, you're nothing. Your cells. Um, your spirit is very much still alive, you know. So it's, and I talk about the children all the time. We celebrate their birthdays, we still celebrate everything. To me, we talk about death with the children, that they're not afraid of it, you know. And I say, you know, in here is where we live, you know, and if I die, you know, I speak to my kids about it all the time, because only recently with my 9-year-old, you know, I started I got her a little journal, and I think journaling is it's a great way of connecting with your kids and see what way to, you know, to bring more positivity into your life and to focus on the good stuff, not instead of the more we're very quick to just go straight to the negative shit in the day. But if we focus more on the good stuff, I think it changes your whole mindset as well. So I was just noticed with Layla, you know, she got a new journal and she said, oh, this can be our journal. She said, it can be, okay, you do half the page and I'll do the other half.
Yeah.
And she had her hand covered over one of the I think it was around fears. And I said, are you going to let me see? And she says, oh, I don't know, you'll think I'm silly. And I said, no, I won't think you're silly. And so when she lifted it off, it was like, I'm afraid my family are going to die, you know. And it was like, and I said, but you know, we have to be able to talk to our children about this. You know, I said, Layla, we won't die. I said, sure, you know, I said, Daniel, we celebrate their life. They're always with us. I said, and I am in here. I said, all you have to do is close your eyes. I said, and feel it. And I, you know, I even put my hand on her heart. I said, remember this love, and, you know, wrapped her in my arms for that connection. I said, that's all you have to do. I said, and I will always be with you. And I said, the thing is, we don't ask for help and we don't ask to be shown. We're afraid. I said, there's nothing to be afraid of, you know. So I think it's really important to talk about death, you know, even with the older generation that still have that fear because of the programming and the beliefs that have been fed to them. It's disturbing really to watch, you know, people that are, you know, dedicate their whole life to maybe to the church, and they still have this immense fear of God and think they're going to hell, and it's like that they haven't been good enough. I think that is just so wrong, you know. But it's all about trying to change that now in society, and at a time when everybody has been faced with it. That's I have even wrote about it, and you know, have spoke about it so much about death, and not to fear death, because it is not the end, you know. And that's what, if I can leave a message, it's not the end. I know it's not. I've seen it. I feel it. I'm experiencing it all the time, and we're just living in different timelines at different. That's what I believe. You know, we're living at different. The universe is just so vast, and you know, it's mind blowing.
It's definitely. I mean, I think we're seeing obviously in the world today, people talking about this, that religion's kind of uh not fallen out of favor. Obviously, church church attendance is down. And I know always again, living in Belfast, you always heard about how much um, power control the church had, especially in the Republic of Ireland, the power they had. I mean, obviously not going to go into some of the dark history, but the power they had, even over things they were doing that were wrong. When the police got the Garda came along, they were able to say, "It's okay, we'll deal with it." In the Garda were like, "Oh, okay, Father, no problem." Um, we go again, going back to your that experience where you nearly died. Do you think that experience that helped prevent you from kind of like, because I have two children myself, and it, my boggles. You feel like you would just fall into like a dark abyss. So do you think that experience that you had prevented you from falling into that kind of just into that, like you were saying before, but just lie in your bed, put the covers over, and I'm done basically? Did you think that helped kind of uh, steer you on the course you're on now?
No, because I've been in that place too.
Okay,
Before the near death, you know, I was suicidal, and that was one of the times that my son actually did appear to me.
right.
And I had all planned. I was going to get up to leave, and the baby had woke. It was a few months after, I had given birth, and I couldn't cope with the pain. The pain was just horrendous, and that I did go into that space. I've been there where I was suicidal, and that I couldn't I couldn't cope with the pain. Where people say, but the selfishness, and that, you're not thinking, you're thinking you're doing people a favor by unless you've been in that dark space. I don't think anyone can ever understand just how low that you actually can be. And people have been accused of being selfish, and that's not where you're thinking. That's not where your head's at. The pain is immense. You don't want to die, but you just don't know how to live. You don't know how to cope with it. And that's why I'm so passionate even around suicide prevention, and I have organized trainings, and I've spoke about it very openly at different events as well. So I have also been on that level as well. And like, only that the child woke that night, and I actually took her into Daniel's bed to put her to sleep so that I could sneak off again. And that's when he actually appeared to me again and said, no, this is not the answer, and I will help you. I am not going to leave you. I am here. So even though I had all those experiences, I didn't actually know if it was real or not. I still thought, was I losing my mind? Was this actually really happening? Because nobody talks about this stuff.
No.
Well, they do. They do when you get into it. When you'll find people. Find the right people when you choose that path. But there's not many speaking openly about it. Even about the church. Like, there are some great people still in the church, and everybody blames God and it's not God that's doing it. It's human beings that are doing this stuff. And using God as the scapegoats. Then everybody turns away. And then they have no belief, or they have no faith, or no anything. And I lost all that too. So, because I was really, spiritual, I would have went to mass every day. My grandmother, as I said, was a healer, very much into the church, and I would have had a lot of her values instilled in me. And even though I was angry, I remember even sitting when Layla was being baptized, which was the youngest child after Daniel died, and I was sitting in the chapel, and I was thinking, I'm a fucking hypocrite sitting here because I hate you, and I was having this conversation with God in my own head, and getting very angry, and all of that, so I think it's very clear to be open and honest, and know that, that's okay too. Yes, you can be angry, and you can be all of that, and still you're not going to be condemned to hell. Like, I was told that I was going to be, when I was a teenager, for being pregnant, that I was going to hell for that. How could you go to hell for having a child that was sent to you? That's what I felt, so I never believed that. So I stopped going to confession for 20 odd years, and then when I went back, I was told the same thing. So it was like, Jesus, nothing has changed here. So it was like, well, F this, this isn't my way. This isn't the God that I know and that I have experienced. So no, this is wrong. And then by reading, I don't know if you've heard of Neil Donald Walsh.
No, sorry. No.
His books, Conversations with God, just, okay. It was just.
Oh, sorry. Sound. Sorry, it's a sign. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, don't know what happened there.
I can hear you now. Okay. Yeah, if you turn the volume a bit, just. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Oh, there we are. That's good.
Good. Sorry, something happening.
No, sorry.
They're messing with me now.
Do you think with, like, obviously with regards to religion, because I think that's a lot of people kind of, when religion comes up, they I think people have had enough. It's they always point to the hypocrisy. To go, and you're sitting there telling us to do X, Y, and Z, and if we don't, we're going to be punished, sent to hell. But yous are doing far worse crimes. Do you think there's going to be a switch round where maybe like the church or religion can turn things about, can reform itself in a way that appeals to people again, and brings people back in as opposed to driving people away?
Um, I believe that things are crumbling because they have to crumble. I think it's crumbling because it wasn't working.
Yeah,
Those old ways are no longer serving us as humanity. I believe that you can be more, it's more a spirituality, and you can do that from your own home. I also have seen where, some great priests are changing it, because I have spoke in chapels
okay,
for where I've been asked to come and speak. It was for last year for the remembrance of the dead, and the priest had asked me to come and speak to hundreds of people and share my experience. So I think they know that some priests know that they have to make changes, and
yeah,
more positive changes, because those old ways do not work, and it is not working, and it is crumbling, and there won't be anybody. So I feel that they have to make and accept people for who they are, and everybody should be accepted for who they are, regardless of race, color, creed. It doesn't matter, sexuality, it does not matter, because we are lovable human beings and we are one. And this thing of, um, what I'm seeing at the minute, even on social media, is people are turning on one another.
yeah,
It's like you can see it even on your newsfeed, and that's all programming as well. And people don't even know they've been programmed. They
yeah,
don't even recognize how it's having a huge impact on them. And that it's the same thing.
yeah,
It's the same thing. So it's really about empowering yourself and trusting what's right for you and what's in your heart. It's
yeah,
because your head can go take you in several different directions, but your heart will always lead you home, as I feel.
yeah,
Right now, it's what is right for you and your family, and trust in your heart, not your head, and sometimes not your gut, because sometimes your gut is wrong. Because if it's so fear based, your gut, as you know, goes into you're it's a nuts, because you're in fear. So I say to people, I don't always trust the gut, because it can be detrimental as well.
yeah. Because I was talking to I've been talking to a few other guests, and one of the things that like Sir Jeff Thompson, I think I was speaking to Donald Kennedy yesterday, is like trauma it can cast a long shadow on your life. So if thing, as you say, like if thing traumatic happens to you, whether it's being a victim of abuse or whatever, the the fear can cast itself for years. I know everyone knows this, but it can cast a long shadow. But the one of the things Jeff Thompson said was it can lay down programming that you just follow. And like you're saying, it's like your gut instinct is kind of like it's trying to protect you, but it's doing more harm than good. So
Yeah.
with going obviously into NLP, neuro linguistic programming, just for anyone watching, what is NLP, and um, how, how did it help yourself?
Yeah, so, well, I like to use this example. Every time I used to drive in the road into Clonus, all I would see was the crash scene.
Yeah,
I would relive it over and over again in my head. So automatically, because your brain doesn't know what's real and what's just a memory,
yeah,
it thinks it's happening to you now because you're actually recalling this memory, and it's flooding your system with the same chemicals and everything in the body to help you survive. But my body had went through that for years until it couldn't take anymore. So then it started to shut down. So, just by recalling a memory, and it was the actual the connections in the brain that is linked to the emotion in the body. The thought is linked to the emotion, and it's flooding your system with the same, just by memory. So now I can drive in the road. It's not that it hasn't happened. It's that the connection is broken, and we've changed the pattern that's programmed in the brain. So it's very simple and very quick to deal with something like that, especially around trauma and memories, and visualizing. If you're reliving something over and over again in your head, when something's really happened to you that's angered you, and all you have to do is think of it, and you can feel it in your body. But people don't understand. And even with the neurologists, when I was seeing them, I said, you need to learn this stuff, because you're seeing people every day, and this could so help. He hadn't a clue what I was even talking about. So it was like, then he started to write notes and take notes, and I said, you need to understand that, the link between the brain and the body, because he didn't even understand how my brain scans were so different.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's the memory. It's programmed in your brain, and it's linked to an emotion. So we have to break that cycle, so that you can live a more fulfilling life. And it's not very difficult as it might sound, And then just having that practice of letting things go a lot quicker than holding on to it, because that's what happened to us for generations. We've held on to so much pain and trauma and didn't know how to deal with it. And it's not that we're wiping out the past. You're not. It's not that it hasn't happened. It's just that to know how to deal with it and how to break that link that's connected to your subconscious part of your brain that's releasing the chemicals, so that you can feel better and release better chemicals into your body, rather than reliving hell over and over again, because that's what your hell is. It can be hell here in your own head, and that's what it was for me, till it becomes so intense that my body couldn't take any more of it. But then with energy healing and stuff like that, also helped to shift the energy that was trapped in the body.
Yeah.
And
I remember one of your other interviews, you talked about you were so badly inflamed. And I know with like the stress and stuff like that, and again, I apologize, I can't remember the whole details of this, but basically your own, when you're kind of a lot of stress, and as you say, you're kind of replaying those traumatic reels of bad events. Your body starts to basically I think the immune system starts to attack the body. You get a lot of inflammation, skin conditions like psoriasis, and obviously inflammation. Because remember, I think one of the interviews I was listening to yesterday, you start getting inflammation in your ribs.
Yeah.
And then obviously once you started, then obviously just that, like you talk about meditation, and more positive visualization, or changing what you're thinking about, that all cleared up.
Yeah, and the breath is so powerful. If you can calm, because it's going to calm your whole system down if you learn how to breathe correctly. And as you mentioned before, you've done work with interviewed David Toney,
True, yeah.
and and I had already started doing breath work before that, and the Wim Hof method was really, really powerful as well for me. And then I had asked David then to come and teach different groups as well, so it was amazing, when you correct your breath as well, how that can calm your whole system down. And if we brush our teeth every morning and every night, why can we not just even do something like breath work for 2 or 3 minutes to sustain? When you start to get this into practice, then you don't become so stressed. You don't have the effects on the body. So it's a maintenance program, just like maintaining your teeth, maintaining the mind and maintaining the nervous system in your body to actually calm down. And because there's going to be huge challenges, there's always going to be challenges in life, and that is part of life. But when you have some tools that can help you, then you become more resilient, and it doesn't affect you as badly as maybe what it would have.
Yeah.
It's not that life's all hunky-dory, for me all the time. It's not like, but there's always going to be challenges. If I have 4 children, of course, the worry I used to have about them and letting them out, and
Yeah.
2 of the older girls are 18 and 16 now, and the driving comes, and you can't live in fear. If you live in fear, your life is a mess. So if you can just trust and know that the energy you're putting out, and surround them with love and give them all that they need, it really helps you as a person as well, and it helps your whole family. The knock-on effect that it has is huge. It's not just working on yourself. You pass this on to your children and the next generation instead of the generations of crap that we have brought. It's up to us and our responsibility to change that now, and to not give our power away so easily to other people. I think when you empower yourself and you put yourself first, because if I don't put myself first, if I don't work on me, I'm not in a good state. So if I would have got up at 6 o'clock every morning and spent an hour doing meditation or breath work and whatever on me first, that I know I create the life and I create the environment that I want to have, rather than getting up and being a lunatic and come on, you're going to be late, and you creating that manic energy, and sending them off stress to school that's going into a stress teacher. If you can teach them, to be all these tools, simple tools for themselves, then we will change. We will change what's lies ahead.
I suppose it's like the airplane analogy. I know it gets used a lot, but when you're on an airplane, do the safety brief. They always say, please fix your own mask first before helping others with theirs. So I think going back to what you're saying, if you're not right, you can't help other people.
No.
You just can't. You can help, but it's going to be impeded by being out of whack or being out of tune. And you're saying there about getting up, going, come on, like you're getting everybody out of the house. I remember one of the other guests I had on, Tony Summers, good long while ago, I was over training with him. He was saying, he's a counsellor, he was saying, parents who kind of rush their children, are always constantly rushing them, that passes on to them. So they then unconsciously they're rushing their work. They're feeling have to keep going because it's time to pick up. Going through everything you went through, does it still have an impact on you now, or do you feel you're in a place where you're kind of above it and you're kind of balanced, or do you feel sometimes certain days, maybe certain dates, for instance, like early March, do you feel that kind of the impact of what you went through try to drag you down?
I think I have much more awareness, and I'm very aware of my feelings. I'm very aware that if something does come, I allow it. I don't try to push it away. If I see, I've noticed, even if I see, generally I'll see a gap in my diary of a few days, even maybe a week beforehand. I believe that they're helping me, through this as well, and saying, maybe you should take a break this week, and that happens organically. I don't have to do anything for it, but I'll notice if I have a couple of days, maybe there's a reason for this, maybe there's something, maybe to allow my own body to heal and maybe allow the feelings to come. I don't try and push them away. I'm much stronger now, to be honest with you, because I have a different understanding of it. But I'm still a mother, I'm still human, and I still have feelings, and I don't try to push them feelings away. If I'm having a bad day, I have a bad day. I don't try to hide it, and a bad day doesn't have to be a bad week or a bad month. It's just a bad day. That's the way I look at it, and I feel that we're too hard on ourselves. And being aware of your feelings is very, very important. So it's recognizing it and letting them come on those days that maybe are a little bit more difficult. But no, I don't get as down and as depressed as I would have previous to all of that. But as I say, I'm still human. I'm very compassionate to people. I understand their pain, and pain is part of life. Death is coming to us all. So it's get busy dying or get busy living. I take each day as a blessing. I thank God every morning when I open my eyes that I'm still here to spend my life with my children, and I will continue to live that way for as long as I'm to be here, I suppose. I've had a few experiences where I shouldn't really have been, but I've been saved for a reason. I really believe that. So I want to do my best in whatever form that takes. Sometimes it leads you in different directions. You think you're heading one way and then it's going another, because life has took me on different paths. I was a beauty therapist and a makeup artist. That was primarily what I done, and it has taken me completely now on a different path. But I still love the creative side of getting in to do a wedding and bringing that calmness and bringing that, being part of a special day on the lovely day is beautiful, as well as being able to help people maybe on their darkest days. So it's nice to have a balance of both, and because it can get pretty heavy. Some of this work can get pretty heavy, and it's being able to recognize when I need sometimes a break as well, just to let that all flow through you rather than holding on to it. And the idea of trying to fix everything. I was going to fix the world, by the way. That doesn't happen. But it's empowering people for them to recognize themselves, to become more aware of themselves and not be so hard on themselves, and to love themselves, because we weren't taught how to love ourselves.
No.
And that is a huge thing. I think we have so much shame, so much guilt, so much baggage carrying around with us, that if you learn to let it go, let it down, and learn how to love and let people go that need to go sometimes as well, which is a difficult one.
Because
It has happened.
I think in like what you're saying there, it's so true, especially in society now. I remember growing up at school, basically, pain was to be avoided. What do you call it? Failure was critical. If you failed on an exam or failed at a course, pretty much the view was you're not going to be anything. Your life is over. And we do. As you said, there's a lot of negativity, putting people down, tearing people apart. If someone expresses a different view or comes at a different angle, they're literally mauled online
Yes.
like a virtual pack of wolves. With your practice, what is the most common things people come to you for help with? Is it past traumas, getting over the loss of a loved one?
Really, it's a combination of everything, really, and just coping, stress, anxiety, and in whatever shape or form that has taken in their lives. But I have combined a lot of the modalities together, um, NLP, a little bit of hypnotherapy, some meditation, and some healing as well, whether it be Reiki or spiritual healing, calling in my angels and guides to assist. So I combine it all nearly in a treatment. So if somebody comes to me, they're not coming just for 15, 20 minutes and out the door. I give them 2 to 3 hours, which is a lot of time, but it's still, I believe people need that time, especially the first time they come to you, that they're, you don't know where they're at, you don't know what they've been through. I think it's very important to give them a voice to air that. So when I'm working with people, I know people say, oh, you need to be doing it quicker. No, to me, I don't. To me, I would rather see less people and give them my full attention and give them everything that I've learned, rather than, and empower them to do this work for themselves at home, rather than having to keep coming to me, because that's something that I do have a page then that for all clients that I just throw stuff in every day just to keep that light going, and empowering them. And also that's what I was doing, was a weekly meditation class, just to keep them in that. It's all about ourselves, we expect other people to fix us and to put things right, but nobody's going to do that for you. You have to do it for yourself. No matter what a doctor says, or you can read something out of a book, but unless you experience stuff, you're not going to understand it. So I want people to be able to give themselves everything that they need, because you're not going to get it from outside sources. With the best of intentions, they can, assist you and can guide you, but you have to do this for you. That is part of the work. That's part of life, is knowing that you have a power within yourself that you thought you didn't have, and reach in and use it. But that's what I'm more about, empowering people, I don't say I have a magic wand and everything's going to be fixed and everything, you're going to have a great life and this is it now. No, that's not the way it's going to be. There's going to be challenges. That's how you grow, by the way.
Yeah.
Every challenge and every failure is a good thing, because it teaches you to get up and keep going and become more resilient. My God, if I had stayed down, I wouldn't be where I am now. And it's the same with a child when they start to walk. Do you tell them to stay down? You're no good at that. No.
Yeah.
Don't you encourage them?
Yeah.
You just need to be encouraged. And that's the same with our own children. And we forget that, because our own conditioning and our own programming, we pass on to our children. So unless you're even aware of it, most people are not even aware of the stuff they're even saying to people, the language that they're using, the tone that they're using with them. My kids will pick up straight away. Oh, listen to the way you're speaking now. They will pick up on the tone, or if I'm going off now, oh, where's Miss Positivity gone now? They call me out on my own bullshit, which is kind of funny in a way.
You'd be accountable.
Yes, completely. Yeah. There's nothing like your own family to challenge you.
Yeah.
And keep you grounded.
You mentioned earlier on the interview about your grandmother being a big influence in your life. What would be one of the biggest lessons you learned from her, or what would be one of the biggest? What would be her message that she kind of passed on to you to kind of pass on to others?
Oh, that's a good question. I've started using a lot of the practices that she would have used. Actually, what happened was about 2 years ago, they were clearing out some of my grandmother's stuff, and they come across her. They told me to look in the box and take a look or whatever, and I come across a cross that she used to use while healing, and when I lifted it, it just burned into my hands, and I fell to the floor crying. I could feel like the spirit just going through me. So I have her cross, and I have her prayer book that she actually would have used. I have found myself using a lot of old traditions like fasting and blessing my food and blessing everybody. And one thing she always said to me is, like, it's not me doing the work. I am just facilitating the space, and it is the Holy Spirit or God or whoever you believe in, the divine, the universe, is actually doing the healing. It's not me. And I find myself always saying, it's not me. It's not me doing this work. I'm just facilitating the space and allowing it to come through me, and holding that space for you to empower yourself. Because I would have sat with her as a child through. People come from all over Ireland, like they would have been from all over. She had a prayer house, was what they called it, and at home, they would have come in their droves. But the only thing was that's what I was afraid of, was that she got sicker and sicker. I don't know if she really understood how to protect herself and her energy. She gave so much of herself, and that's what I have. If I find I'm going down a wee bit, I'll understand. Oh, I need time for me now, because that was one of the biggest lessons that I would have learned from her, is that she took on everybody else's pain. Yeah. And not sure she knew how to clear it, the work to do to actually cleanse herself. So I was very nervous about even starting this work, because I seen what happened to her.
Yeah.
And where she gave so much of herself. And I also have done that too in the past, and I've seen it's detrimental to my health as well. If I don't look after me, if I don't do the work on me, I am no good to anybody, and especially not my own family, which are my priority. Sometimes you can get so lost in trying to be there for everybody that you forget that you actually have yourself and your family to look after. So yeah, prayer is huge, and calling in, asking our guides, asking our angels, asking spirit to help us, because sometimes we don't ask.
Yeah.
We've become so good at not asking for help. Oh, I'm going to do this. I can do this myself. No, you can't. You do need to be, but sometimes you need to ask for assistance, and you need to ask for help. And that's why so many people there's still a stigma around asking for help. And I am always encouraging people, ask your angels, ask your guides. If you don't ask, you're not going to get help, just keep asking. So, so I've noticed, I do more fasting, where she used to fast on a Friday. And it's a long time ago, but I find that I'm even blessing my water. I'm taking time to sit, to eat, where I didn't before. It was always, oh, throw something into you and run, even in the car. It's very important to sit down. The rest and digest also gives your body the chance to digest the food and take the nutrients from that. Um, so there's lots of wee nuggets. She would have also taught me to, if I was looking for assistance or guidance, she used to teach me to just to open the book at a certain page, say we ask for a message, and it would have been the Bible that she would have been using at the time, but I find that even with books that I do that, certain books that I'll just lift, and those books, Conversations with God, have great messages in it. And I always find that even just reading a page from that every day keeps you connected,
Yeah.
I should say.
If
Yeah.
if there's somebody watching now and maybe they're interested in what you've been talking about, and maybe they want to explore their spiritual side, but they're scared to do that. What would you recommend as a good kind of start for somebody who wants to learn more about that?
It's a really good question, because I didn't know where to turn either at the start, but I felt that the right people come into my life at the right time. Great, amazing people just started showing up for me. So I think you are being guided. If it resonates with you, if something from this resonates with you, reach out either to myself or to yourself. And if I feel I'm not the right person, I always guide them to other people as well, and people that have been a massive influence in my life and mentors. And then from there, you kind of find your own way. You do find, I've had some great mentors over the past few years, really, and it came through watching a YouTube video, and then those people started connecting with me as well. So it was like things happen. You think it's coincidence, but it's not really. It's a synchronicity of you're on the right path. You've opened up a whole um, other world or a can of worms, or and the right people just come along. So I always say, Martin McNichol, he's from Northern Ireland, has been a massive influence in my life over the past couple of years as well. And some other great people that have done that I still go to, even for acupuncture or for clearing of my energy, Barry Drew and Monaghan being one of them. The right people will find you, I feel, as well, or you'll find the right people. That's what I've found, that is, even when people would ask this question and they may come to me, and then it just opens up where they're led on to different sites or different people, and then they'll resonate with that, because what I'm speaking about may not all resonate with you, but just take what does and leave the rest, and discover for yourself. It's really, when you open it up, it's amazing. And the more I know, the more I know nothing. That's, it's like, wow, there's so much to learn that we didn't even know. Greg Braden is another great man as well. If you haven't heard of Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza, those three men together are just amazing. But if anybody has any questions, even just to message me and I can point them to some great books like that you can really discover, depending on what's going on for you. Spiritually, what kind of angle you want to take at it. There's so many options there, but it's finding what's right for you and what resonates for you.
Would you ever consider writing the book yourself at all?
Yeah, so that's what I was told to do actually during I was like, oh God, I don't know how to write, or I don't know what to do. But during lockdown, that has started. So it started coming through me. My arm would just start going, and the ideas would just start flowing. And then there's times I'd be looking and going, geez, did I actually write that? So I have actually started writing the book, and I've started setting up a new website as well. So see how it goes. Yeah, it's all.
Not to put you under pressure, when do you think the book will be released? Sometime next year, maybe, or?
Yeah, that's what I hope, next year. Yeah. I had been asked by a girl, to actually write a piece. She was writing a book, and I just doubted myself so much, and I didn't. I held back, and I know the right people came to me at that time that for it all to come true, but I just didn't believe in myself, and I was like, what do I write about? So yeah, I just had a wee bit more work and the timing wasn't just right for me. I don't believe it was right
Yeah,
because I've learned so much more even from that time to now that
yes,
it will, I didn't want it just to be all sad story. I wanted to actually have the happy ending, well, and the guidance and be able to give more than that. So I believe I have more now to offer than what I did at that time. So yeah, so I think maybe this is there's maybe a couple of books in it at this stage.
oh,
It's
no,
like,
definitely. Because when I heard your story, when I was researching for this interview, that's the thing that came to my head. The format, I thought to myself, if Martina hasn't wrote a book yet, you definitely should. I think it's a message. That's why it's good to have you on this show. I think it's a message that needs to be put out there, because I do feel it can help people. And that's the whole. I think that's the great thing about the world we live in now. I know social media and technology has a lot of negative things going on. At the same time, it also has a lot of positive things, because you've got more podcasts now. You've got people doing, I think, fantastic work. They're bringing guests on, and like yourself, that story I think resonates, and I think it'll resonate with a whole lot of people, and more importantly, help people. Going to the next question then would be, if they're sorry watching this now and maybe they're in that uh, dark abyss, and they can't see a way out, and the negative voices are all chirping in saying you're finished, give up. What would be the one thing you would say to that person to help them climb out of that dark hole?
oh, and it's been a journey, and I've been in that hole. And the thing is, we can get out of it. As I said, I had tried the different routes, but there are other avenues that you haven't even. People say, "Oh, I've tried everything." No, you haven't tried everything. You've just tried maybe one or two things or one or two people. The right, it just may not have been the right person, but there is something out there, and there is someone out there that you will resonate with, and you can turn your life around no matter how dark it is. I have met and the most amazing people, and it's not about whose story is sadder than anybody else's, because whatever we're going through is our own personal experience. Um, it's not a competition. You don't have to be a martyr because you're not going to get, it's actually about acknowledging how you feel and finding somebody that actually listens to you and can offer you tools to help. Because, you go in sometimes to counselling, you just talk about the same, your experiences. You're bringing up them emotions, as I was talking about earlier, and then you're out the door. But you're not. It's not giving you the right tools. It's not giving you. And there's so much out there. So many amazing people. As you know, when you get into this work, oh my God, I never knew this was even there. There's so much out there that you haven't even considered or even knew that was possible. Stuff that I did, like this was all completely. This is all new to me and all alien. I'd never heard of a belief. I'd never heard of a value, or I'd never heard of, anything like that, or how the mind can, it will kill you or it can cure you.
Yeah,
But we're listening to one side of it. And this thing of, oh, people hearing voices, we're all hearing voices. Every single one of us is hearing voices. And we choose which one we're going to listen to. We can change that voice inside ourselves that is going to uplift us. And that voice is going to try and keep you down. It's trying to keep you safe and familiar with what you're used to, because your body becomes used to this state of being. And anything you go to do differently, it's going to find uncomfortable. So even when I'm talking to people, if they're coming to me for an appointment, I'm going to say, now, the morning that you're going to come to me, you're going to be sick. The wee voice inside your head's going to tell you, don't go, there's no point, it's going to be a load of rubbish. It's going to tell you that. But the thing is, recognizing that, because we're not told that. People don't say you're going to feel sick, you'll feel uncomfortable, go and do it anyway. Because the relief, that's when when you push through that barrier, that's on the other side of that is a totally different life. Because the ego will try and keep you small.
yeah,
It'll try and keep you stuck in the familiar state. When you go to do anything differently, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And yes, it will be uncomfortable, but you'll be surprised after a few minutes. Oh my God, it's like a weight has just been lifted off you when you give yourself that chance. And it's, do reach out. the thing is with systems the way they are at the minute too, I don't have much faith in them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, you go and you ask for help of a doctor, and then you might be put on a waiting list for 6 months. People need the help now.
Yeah.
They don't need it in 6 months' time. They need it now. You know, and there are great people there. So I know lots of great people in Ireland that are doing the similar type of work, similar programs that you can do from home, that you don't have to travel or whatever. So there is. I'm even working on another one at the moment.
Okay.
I did do one, a 21-day program with people recently about self-love. So I still have that if somebody wanted to plug into it, and it starts. I speak on it for a while, and then I give people a task to do every day. You know, so it's starting the journey, and it's starting to make you think differently and see differently. But there's lots of great things out there, but you have to give yourself that chance to try it and to see. You'd be surprised at what you can do, and you have a power within you. You have tools inside you that can make you feel so much better if you give yourself the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Donna, if anyone wants to get in touch, or either go get meet with yourself or whatever, or access, I know your website's getting redone. How do they contact you?
Well, mostly it's just here, really, on Facebook. You will find my personal page, or I have Martina Crudden Health and Wellness as well. If somebody reaches out, I will plug them into my private group as well for clients if they wanted. You know, so there's breathing techniques in there. There's lots of stuff in there. There's lots of meditation ideas. Lots of morning motivational things, depending on what you need. It has a kind of a little bit of everything inside it, and that is there to be used for free. And it's just reach out to me personally, and if I can be of assistance, I will. If I can point you in another direction or to somebody that might be closer to you, I can do that also. So yeah, as I say, for now the website's not. I was toying with the idea of whether I actually needed it or not, but I think everyone's always asking now. So I do want to develop more programs online as well, that I can reach more people, because it's okay on the one-on-one, and I really do love that. I love that personal touch, and I think people like that as well. But there's so much, you can help so many more people if you have the programs there as well, that you can be on anywhere in the world and be in contact. So so that's really, I'm really only there at the moment.
All right. Donna, I have to say thank you so much for coming on. I know I basically messaged a lot of people on, I guess, just out of the blue. They're kind of like, who's that guy? But thank you so much for coming on, and especially sharing your story, because when I'm getting prepared for this, you kind of go, you feel bad asking the person to kind of go through all that again, or talk about. But I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm really grateful, and I appreciate you shared that story with myself and the viewers. And I say thank you, and good luck for the future, and good luck for the book. I look forward to seeing that, and the programs as well.
Thanks, Jonathan. But the thing is, like, we all have a story. You know, every single one of us has a story. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what you've been through. You can find joy, you can find peace, and you can find happiness again. You know, I never thought that I would ever feel that, but I have actually felt more at peace, and I've discovered more about myself than I ever would have unless I'd been through the challenges that I've been through. And you can use them to help you to grow, you know, regardless of the pain and the suffering that you've been through. And so many people have been through huge, worse, as I say, it's not a competition, but you can overcome whatever it is, but just giving yourself that love, and that, connecting with yourself is so important. Yeah. So thank you for asking me to come on and to share, and hopefully we'll keep in touch, and
definitely.
Yeah.
Again, not I put a few people on the spot, but hopefully a later date, once the book's out, hopefully maybe you'll come back on, and we can talk about that a bit more as well.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get back. You're over all this and get back to running events again as well, which is another great. I love doing events as well. So it's yeah, I can let you know. Hopefully when all this blows over, this is a massive time for us to change and to
Yeah,
really contemplate what's going on in our own lives and to make those changes. So it's a great opportunity if you see it as that.
yeah.
Yes. So yeah, thanks a million, Jonathan.
No, thank you, thank you. Happy enough with that then, yeah.
Yes, yes. So you, yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I said, basically, I said I prepared like I know just like one page, but I thought what I'm trying to do with a lot of the interviews is like some people will ask me type out the questions, send them to me. But a lot of the interviews, I'm taking notes, but just trying to let the conversation flow. So it's a bit more natural as opposed to me going question five or something like that. So yeah, no, that was great. And I say thank you very much for coming on. I really do appreciate
I
your
didn't realize the time. It's like, holy God, it's like nearly 2 hours.
hours. Yeah, no, no,
Oh
thank
my
you.
God. I don't think there'll be many tuning into 2 hours, but anyway.
You know, I think that the because people said to me, like some people said to me, why do you have the episodes so long? But I think it's if you were to go on to the RTE or UTV, they would have you summarize your story in about a 2 minute, 3 minute soundbite. I mean,
Yeah.
Jeff Thompson went on Sky News and he's wrote two books, Divine CEO, and it's about his own spiritual journey,
Right.
and Notes from a Factory Floor, which kind of there's a big gap between the last few books he wrote, which is about 15 years ago, to where he is now. And he said people come to him and look at him as the bouncer, the doorman, the martial artist, but he's not him anymore. He's transitioned to a completely different person.
Mm.
But they had him on Sky News, and literally, I think he prepared for it because the the interview with him, like yourself, should be longer because there's so much to go through. And I think he was ready for this, and literally the man, I think they brought in politics, and they said, what's your message to the leaders? And he was simply saying, like be open and understanding, and accept that everybody else is the same as yourself. I'm
Yeah.
probably we repeating that word for word, but it was along those lines, and you could see on the presenters it was lost on them. They kind of went, oh, all right, okay, thank you. And everyone, that's Jeff Thompson. His book's out now on Amazon, and right away they went straight into the news. He almost kind of made a joke of it after he was off the air, and I thought to myself, I just interviewed him a few days before, and I thought to myself, that's ridiculous. I mean,
Mm.
it brought someone like that on, gave him a few minutes to talk, and then literally, oh, it's always like a
Yeah.
full of coffee. So I know people have said to me 2 hours is long, but I think there is, especially with other podcasts like Joe Rogan, London Mail, um, there is an appetite for people to kind of watch a long format. Um, maybe watch it in parts. Maybe watch the first
Yeah.
hour and right, I'll watch the other hour tomorrow. So I, I think it's the best, unless somebody in the future comes to me and says, no, you need to change that. But I think it helps get the message across to people. So it does.
Yeah. I love that. I do think so too, because it gives you a broader aspect of what's going on or what has happened. And people can see themselves in parts of it as well. So yeah,
It also
it's
means that when you people come on the show or come on to speak to me, they know that their whole message is getting put out. It's not going to be cut and paste. So we're not going to take this bit,
yeah.
move this bit out, and you're going to go, that that's portraying me differently, or that makes me sound like this. That's not me.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'll be like almost like a book. There you go. Read this person's story, and hopefully it'll help. And I try to put as broad a spectrum of things of guests in from different backgrounds, but I'm starting to see a lot of common melodies or common threads.
Yeah.
The message is quite similar,
Yeah.
and as you say, you need to be kind of tuned in to kind of see that. You can
Mm.
easily look at and go, what's this fitness guy got to do with Martina? But if you really tune in, you go, oh, there's a commonality there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, always.
Really good.
Yeah. I gotta go because my daughters are driving theory tests. So I'll be praying and lighting candles now.
No worries. Martina, thank you very much. And
Thanks a
just for
million.
people, it's okay to use one of your profile pictures as a wee promotional. Is that
Yeah, 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 that's fine, no problem at all.
no worries.
But will you let me know when
It's going to go
when
out.
you're
Yes,
putting
it's going to go out in about probably about mid-November. If that's okay.
perfect,
So
yeah.
so I'll give you a heads up in advance, and once your website's up and all, let me know, and I'll attach that in. So well,
Perfect. Thanks a million. That's great.
no worries. Thank you for your time,
Lovely to
Martina.
talk to you. Yeah.
Yes, you
Take
too.
care.
All the best.
All
Bye
right,
bye.
Jonathan. Bye bye. Bye bye.